Welcome to Tennis 2020 Real Talk, real people, real life. I want to thank Austin Tennis Academy for making it possible for us to do this broadcast and for EKH Media for producing this broadcast. Today, we're going back and we're checking back in with the folks at SotoTennis Academy in Soto Grande, Spain. Dan Kiernan, who we spoke with at the very beginning when they were just starting their lockdown and we were still in free run. And today we're also talking to Mike Kelly. And if you watched that episode, you'll remember that Dan was talking about the yeoman's work that his entire staff, but particularly his fitness staff, was doing. So we have the two of them on and we're going to check in, see where things are. Hi, guys.
Hey, Duey, how are you?
Good. Where are you in this lockdown process? Has it changed at all? And how long have you, I don't even know what day it is. What is it for you?
So we're day 17 now. I'm not sure exactly which day it was that I spoke to you last, Dewey, but yeah, we're good. We're good. It's evolving. It almost feels normal now. Our what was the new world almost feels like a normal world now. I think we've done, as we talked about last time. Obviously, the team's done an amazing job. And I believe we've kind of got into some really nice routines now where, we're learning all the time. We reflect. We have our reflection meeting each morning on what's happened and what's been happening and update on all the projects. Everyone's taking a real clear role and leadership in a certain aspect of what we're doing. And I think some really nice things have been happening. I think the feedback from our own players and parents, which is our priority, has been extremely good. We've seen development happening, which in a time like this, I think was always going to be the challenge. And I think getting the buy in from players and parents that actually, you know what, guys, it's one thing for us to say this is an opportunity. And that was always very much our message. As we talked about before, this was reframed very fast in our heads. But I think players and parents are seeing some real genuine development happening on the physical side, on the mental side, the tactical side, and really starting to get a little bit more ownership of understanding their games. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, we don't want to be doing this for the next couple of months if we can get back onto the tennis court. But in the circumstances, I would say it's been a really good couple of weeks where lots of great things have happened, and I'm sure Mike will let us know in a moment. For us personally as an academy, but also personally as individuals, it's been a really refreshing period of time for us to upskill. My technological skills have gone through the roof. We've developed a podcast now. We're doing lots of Instagram lives where, the ability for us to be able to put things out on YouTube, all of these different areas that I've always had personal ambition and also had an academy ambition to do. We have had the time now to be able to do it. I thought I would have a lot of time to read and a lot of time to do these things. I haven't had a chance to do any of that, but I have had a chance to really upskill myself, and I know the team as well. But yeah, I don't know what you think on that, Mike, as well.
Yeah, Mike, you're the new one to this little group of us, right? So it's now the Three Musketeers or something here on this broadcast. What has life been like for you? Do you live in a home, a single family dwelling, an apartment dwelling? What does life look like for you?
Yeah, there's me, my girlfriend, and my dog. We live in just a normal apartment. We've got space. It's not too small that we're on top of each other all of the time, but it's not the expansive space that we're used to around here. So yeah, like we we don't have a great deal of space, but we're making the best of it. We have a dog, so we're allowed 50 meters away from the apartment twice a day. So it allows us to get a little bit of fresh air and a bit of a walk. But yeah.
So is that 50 meters away from your actual door, or what does a complex look like there? Here, an apartment complex might be fairly large and it has some courtyard spaces and things like that. What does that 50 yards look like? So
from the main entrance, I would say, so onto the road, onto the marina area. If you're walking along the road, we've spoken to people that have been stopped by the police, and if they are 100 meters, 150 meters away from their home, they're told to go back to a closer radius to where they live. So, like Dan's mentioned a few times, they've been pretty strong here, which in terms of fighting the virus and fighting any type of spread is a really good thing. It just limits us as to what we can do and where we can go. But as I say, we're making the most of it. You talked about communal areas. We've got a little area downstairs with a pool. We're allowed down there for a short period of time. We've got an underground car park, which is maybe 90 meters, 100 meters. So we've been going down there most days doing some exercise. And some of the videos that I've been recording are actually from down in the underground car park. So Dan's used the word a few times, it's reframing. What can we do? There's lots of things that we can't do, but it's not dwelling on those things. It's coming out of the other end of this, thinking, what can I do now that I couldn't do before I went into lockdown, and trying to use it as an opportunity to upskill, like Dan said, upgrade in certain areas, whether that's video editing, whether that's, I personally, Dan hasn't been able to, but I've been able to read a little bit more, listen to podcasts, upskill in other ways. And we're trying to, I think, before you can instill that onto the players within the academy, you've got to instill that into yourself. It's got to be something that you can sell comfortably, knowing that you're doing it as well. So I think upskilling them in terms of encouraging the younger ones to learn how to cook certain meals, to simple things, make their beds, tidy their rooms, and then going on to two other things that we may touch on in this talk, if challenges and upskilling in whether that's mobility, whether that's physical body weight skills, anything like that as well. So reframing's been the big one for us as an academy and me personally.
One of the big wows from the first conversation with Dan was him talking about that you and your fitness staff, strength and conditioning staff, had created 170 videos over the course of just a couple of days to be able to keep people's programs going. How are you continuing to make those? Because I think I saw on Facebook that there's now over 200 of them.
Yeah, we're 300 plus. And what we've also started to do is I
don't know if you can see this, Mike, but we're showing one of the videos that you've created.
So this is just part of our normal mobility routine that we would do with the players each morning before they played tennis. But then they see us performing the exercise. They don't see a name on a sheet of paper each morning. So now that we're sending electronic programs through, they are now seeing names on a piece of paper, which sometimes can look a little bit different. They can be daunted by just seeing a name. So to take any confusion out, and again, to come out of this side of lockdown, or the other side, sorry, of lockdown in a better place, we've now got 300 plus videos already recorded, already in our library, and with the intention of when we do go back to work, is developing that even further. So doing exercises within the gym. So all of these exercises that we've done so far are just body weight exercises. There's no equipment. There's no fancy equipment, bars, technology that we're using. It's all just body weight movements, which we're proud. Like Luke, who is my assistant, he's done a fantastic job in what he's done, and just continuing to offer a service. The service that we offer, I don't feel like it's diminished at all. It's just changed. The players are still getting multiple fitness sessions per day, designed and implemented by the S&C team. It's just the delivery that's not there at the moment, which we can't change. So we're just playing by the new rules and trying to make the best of the situation.
So Dan, of the various components that you've been trying to or have been delivering through these different mediums, which have been the ones which have been easiest to deliver, and what's been a little more challenging?
That's a good question. I think the challenge is more amongst the buy-in from certain players and parents than the actual content that's being delivered. I think the way that we've looked at it is exactly what Mike says there. Where it's a changing program, but it's not a depleted program. And what we've looked at is the contact time that we have with our players on the tennis court and the contact time that we have with our players in the gym, and we've created a different program within that. So like Mike's saying, it's still very individualized. The physical programs are still being very much created and prescribed to suit each individual. If actually maybe more work is going in now than normal. In terms of on the tennis side, we've developed tactical lessons, we've developed tactical projects that the players have had to do, and then alongside each of those tactical lessons and projects, we then do Zoom calls with the players, so that they're being taken through the detail. They can feed back amongst themselves, and I would say that's been one of the real positives that's come from this as well, is using player feedback and almost using that self-policing within the players themselves. There was one Zoom call that I ran with the older players, and I kind of sat back and just listened to them almost teaching each other. And every now and then I maybe facilitated the conversation to go into a certain direction. So I would say that's been that's come across really well. But the slight challenge on that has probably been more not necessarily the players' unwillingness to do it, but with our players that are going to school, what we found is that the schoolwork has been quite heavy. So they've been pretty much doing 9 o'clock till 4 o'clock school, and because that's a lot of screen time, our players have been getting more tired than they usually would from a day at school. So I've been working closely with the school, and they've made some adjustments on that as well. So that's we've overcome that challenge. Then on the mental side, again, this is a program that we have someone that's already working with us in a consultancy side of things, and he's been brilliant from Australia. He sent through 28-day challenges. And then we've actually started really developing that work. So rather than that work just sitting on a portal and every now and then us going into that as an academy, that's really been at the heart of what we're doing every day as well. And having that time to do that and really work on the mental fitness side of things has been invaluable, really. And I would say the buy-in on that has been fantastic. If anything, one of our big challenges has been around time. And actually not having enough of it, and wow. Not so much, the challenge hasn't been what do we do, I think we've been able to absolutely bring that together, but also then us as a coaching team, how we keep ourselves focused on what needs to be done on a day-to-day basis, because also our minds have gone to developing other projects as well. There's been absolute challenges along the way, but the biggest one I would say would be around time and just organisation of that time. And
Can I ask you a
we
question?
sat down as...
about the
Absolutely.
sports psychology part of it.
Absolutely.
And we need to get back to Mike in a second on the S&C side. But do you do a lot of scripting with the players? So performance scripts and things like that. Is that part of the physical
It
part
can,
that you
it,
do?
it can
I
be,
mean,
you know,
I'm sorry, the psychological part that you do.
yeah, it's an element of it, you know, so there is visualization part of it. There's different, it's broken down into different elements of the program. So there's 5 chapters as such, which we're going through, you know, in a structured manner. One of them is creating visualization and creating different situations that they go through. There's a lot on aiming and maintaining their attention. There's a lot around having real strong committed actions and understanding their routines and where their committed actions would go. There's a lot at the start of the course. It's very much about understanding the concept and understanding how we look at mental toughness and mental fitness, and then being able to put the building blocks in place on that. And what's then coming through each day, there's a 10 to 15 minute challenge that each of the players have, you know, in which can be some really fun things to some areas where it is all about, you know, linked into mindfulness, the mindfulness side of the mind, into also then having proper lessons. So we've got video lessons that are already uploaded onto the portal, you know, watching videos, and then again having group discussions on that. So 3 times a week we get together just on the mental side to have group discussions on what they've learnt, sharing examples of when there was a time where your mind wandered off. We call them passengers, and the passengers are your negative thoughts and feelings, you know, and that your passenger wandered off to think about something else, or you created nerves and anxiety, and just sitting around in an open forum and being able to share that as being, I know for me personally, has been very beneficial, but I know the players have fed back on that as well. You know, hearing that, I guess one of the big things in sports psychology is the ability to normalize, and just actually hearing other people's stories can really normalize some of your feelings, you know, which is going to help them long term as well. So those that have really committed to that program would have made some really big strides into, like I say, we call it mental fitness, and that is, as we all know, is invaluable in the sport of tennis. So yeah, there's lots more to go on that. We're not getting close to running out of content, you know, and we can just keep on just going down the different layers of the onion, as you know, peel a bit of the onion back, and then there's another layer, and we'll get a little bit deeper into all the areas. So yeah, I really do hope the players can see the value in it, because
it does seem like you might need a lot of content, because you know, who knows how long we're going to be here.
Yeah.
I think from the strength and conditioning side, one of the things I've always felt is it's important to be able to measure progress, right? So I'm doing something, I always know that in anything I'm doing, if I continue to do it, I will be someplace a year from now, which is very different than where I am at this moment. But if I don't know where that target is, I won't know if I've actually made the progress that I wanted to make. I just know that I will have changed. What are you doing on the strength and conditioning side, Mike, which is allowing you to measure how effective these programs that you're developing are?
I think it's depending on the athlete themselves. Like each player within the academy still has their own individualized goals and training schedule. So some might have the aim to maintain flexibility over this period. Some may want to try and improve their landing mechanics. And I think without being able to physically test them, we can talk to the players each day. There are ways that we could test them from afar. And it's probably something that we will get to, depending on how long we are in lockdown. I think Dan talked about buy-in and motivation, and I think if we just give them programs constantly with progression in them, there's going to be a time where, like you say, it gets to a point and you say, like, am I actually getting anywhere? And I think the players staying in constant contact. We do like screening videos and things like that. So we've got part of the online videos resource that we've created is some mobility screening exercises. So if we can get a player to perform an overhead squat or aptly shoulder test or something like that, and we can physically show them the progress that they're making over this period, then I think that will go a long way into their buy-in of what they're doing through this period. I do think it's a massive thing and a definite barrier that we're going to come across based on how long we're going to be in lockdown. I think the longer we're here, the more challenges like that we will get through.
Right. And I'm sure you're confident. You're confident that the people are going to move forward, right? You've set a program. You know that if you follow this program, the players will move forward. The challenge is that they need to know that they're moving forward so that they don't get frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is that is the key. Myself and Luke know that if they continue to do the work that they've been doing, they will. It's just keeping them motivated and adding layers into the program to keep that motivation high. So adding challenges, adding a little bit of competition, anything like that that they will then move forward to. So there are definitely parts in anybody's program that are a bit more of a grind. Some things that you feel like you have to do, and then there are other things that you love to do and can't wait to get into. So as long as we're checking those boxes, I think we're in a good place. Yeah.
How do you feel? What's it going to look like as we come out of this? If you guys are already almost 3 weeks in, right? How long is the basic lockdown in Spain been extended to at this point? Because I think I heard that it had just been extended further.
Officially April the 11th currently. We'll see. I guess that would be a month. I would imagine once lockdown is it is going to be, there's going to be parts. I guess if we're realistic on this, it's going to be difficult to go, okay, everyone's in the house for 4 weeks. Okay, everyone, off you go. Just crack on with your life. You
Right.
know, I would imagine it's going to be, they're going to have to bring that in a progressive way. Whether, sporting clubs or places of potential mass gathering might have a little bit longer. We don't know that, but that's what I would hazard a guess, that there will be a period of time where before we get back to normality, it's not just going to go boom. And then I would imagine there's another period of time before it becomes a free world again, where people are able to travel around and, jump on aeroplanes and, cross borders and, all of those type of things. So I mean, we're prepared for this to go as it goes. There's a primary thing here, and that's everyone's health and safety. And everyone, that is ultimately the number one thing. We fully respect that. Then there's, I've got my team, and I love them all to bits and work in a very close manner with them. So they will then be very, very much on my priority list to make sure that we're all taking care of each other, and we're finding ways to make sure that we continue ultimately surviving. It's survival. It's survival right now. It's not necessarily, let's all work together so we can be buying a new Mercedes next year. It's about us, keeping roofs all over our heads, food on the table, and also, and I think really importantly, us all understanding that and this I think links in a little bit to the question you asked Mike before with the players, ensuring that there's still a really clear purpose and meaning to everything that we're doing here. Because ultimately that's where our motivation will come from, and that's where we'll have the day-to-day disciplines and routines and all of the things that are needed in any field in this world. And I think if you lose your purpose and your reason and your meaning, then you get yourself in a little bit of trouble. So I certainly see it as one of my roles is that I'm continuing with the coaches and with the players to make sure that they know what this is all about and where it's going, because every single day is an opportunity. It's a bit of a cheesy saying, but it is an opportunity to get better, and I don't believe that people really stand still. They get better or they get worse. So if if somebody looks at this as 6 weeks off and stops doing what they need to do, the reality is it's going to be a much harder process to get back to where they want to be in order to compete, whether that's compete on the court, whether that's compete as a coach and be a successful coach, whether that's whatever it might be. So every single day we just, there's certain things we can't do, but we can still get a little bit better every day. And people will only buy into that if they know where this is going and what the purpose is. So we might be back on court in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. When we are back on court, I'm sure there's going to be a transitional period before we have everyone back at the academy, because we are a global academy. We have people from all over the place. So I would imagine not everyone's going to be back immediately. So we'll carry on, and I'm sure we'll be in a place where we're doing 50-60% of our work on the courts, and we're still doing 30 or 40% keeping in touch virtually with those that aren't back, and we'll go with that, whatever it is. But that stuff is out of our control, and what we do, we control the controllables.
Yeah, I can.
So
that's it.
And that it all jumps back into that, and that keeps me focused. Is this in our control? Yes, it is. Okay, let's do everything we can. Is this in our control? No, it's not. Okay, we have to just take that for what it is, and we don't try and stress too much on that.
I would say the strength and conditioning is certainly within your control, and the thing which takes so long to build and goes away so quickly.
Absolutely.
Mike.
I think
please.
I think jumping on to what Dan was saying about, or what you asked Dan about, going back into the program once lockdown is over. I think mine and Luke's job becomes massively important in terms of how we monitor the players' wellness, their training loads as they re-enter back into training. There's going to be a big transitional period for any tennis player getting back on the court. You can't just go from feeling like you've done a lot of physical work to going back onto court and not expecting to get maybe little niggles in the shoulder, hips, wrists, if you haven't gradually phased yourself back into that full training as well. So I think there's going to be a massive transitional period from both a travel and a logistical point of view, but also from a let's look after these athletes point of view as well. I think it's very, very easy for us to get back onto court and end up 3 or 4 weeks later with a lot of broken athletes. So it's there's lots of things to consider as we come out the other side of things.
Yeah, so while I may be stronger, I might have gotten a little bit quicker or faster because I haven't done it in a tennis specific with those specific movements all the time. I could come up with, like you said, little niggles here and there where
Absolutely.
Trying to apply the benefits to
and that's world. Where, if I can jump in here, I think that's when we think of strength and conditioning coaches, we think of their jobs to get them fitter, stronger, more robust, all of these things. Absolutely. And we're very fortunate. We've got guys that do an amazing job on that. But I think also as tennis coaches, we also need people to just rein us in at times. And I think that's certainly how Mike knows he has free rein on that, and Luke does, because as tennis coaches, we do tend to just get a bit excited and go, right, we've got them on court, let's get them hitting balls, let's get them doing this, let's get them doing that, let's do this number of hours, this number of, yeah, great, fantastic. And Mike knows this, and I'll certainly he'll be my eyes on this, and we'll be listening to him. We do have to phase the athletes back in, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, what I would say on that, if there is any athletes listening to this, that phased approach is much more difficult if you come back looking like a chocolate cake, then if you've taken care of your general fitness to the point where you're still in good condition. Yes, there's a transition into being conditioned and ready to be a tennis player, and the rigors of what the tennis court's going to bring. And I think there'll be a natural. I got asked this question yesterday, I think, on an Instagram live. How long will it take for the tennis players to be ready to compete? And I think, okay, yes, at the push, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, you could get somebody ready if they come back in very good condition. However, I think the reality is there's going to be a period where we've got players back on the practice court, and there's going to be a fair amount of time between that and when the competitions are up and open anyway. So I think there's going to be. I don't see this being. The back tournaments are starting in 10 days, and because the players will get anxious, if they've not competed for 3, 4, 5 months, and they're like, all of a sudden there's a tournament. Come on, coach, let me back on the court. If that did happen, then we've got to really pull them back a little bit. But I would imagine that there's going to be a 4, 5, 6 week window, at least, where players are back on the courts and they can go through that. The other thing that I would say on that is, for tennis coaches, if we have a fit athlete and we've got them then through that period, we can then work on their games a lot quicker than having to spend 4 or 5 weeks to get them back up to speed. So if you sat on your backside right now, get up.
Yeah. So you're talking about, for the athletes that you work with, even if the tournament structure were to start back up right away as soon as people can get back out, and that's probably a worldwide thing, right? Because how are you going to award points to somebody if their country, for some people, but some countries still aren't open and they can't. So there's a whole, everything has to almost be open, right? But if everything were to open up at the same time, you wouldn't have your athletes compete for that 4 or 5 week period while you phase them back in. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think when we would obviously sit and have proper discussions, and I think each athlete would be looked at differently, because we will, as much as good as the guys' job that they're doing, there will be some that come back that aren't in as good condition as others. There'll be some that have absolutely stuck to everything. They're putting the right fuel into their bodies. They'll completely be taken care. And we're talking about from a body, but we also have the mind here. We need kind of mentally healthy and mentally fit athletes coming back as well. So we would have those discussions. But no, I mean, I would see it difficult for someone to come back and be competing within 2 weeks, as an example. If someone's in amazing shape, absolutely fantastic shape, and actually some of our guys are still hitting some tennis balls. Mm-hmm. So this is where every situation is a little bit different. Those guys that are still able to get on the local park court, we actually have a couple of players that have courts in their houses, which is a very fortunate position to be in.
Situation, right?
So there will be some players that are in. We have to look at this very individualized. But I think the message for me is this is not, to any athletes listening, this is not a time to just completely switch off, and because then the job to get yourself back going again is all the load more difficult.
There's a lot to think about. I saw someone who was competing at the challenger level who I know was responding to one of the main tour players who was thinking how different it would be if tennis comes back without fans. And this person at the challenger levels responded, you would just be playing like I play all the time, right? There's very few, if anybody, watching.
It was his dad, wasn't it? It was his dad that sent the message.
Yeah, it could be.
I saw the message. Yeah, it was good. It was good.
But there is a whole psychological, if you're playing and you're that Nadal, Federer, Serena Williams, and you're used to bringing the crowd on your side and those momentum shifts, and now all of a sudden it looks like the first round of, I hate to use the, Wuhan, but where there's hardly anybody there. That's a different world, and that might be what sports is all about for a while.
I mean, I the way that I see it, I think that, and I think a lot's going to fall on the federations now. Obviously, the USTA is a big federation. The LTA in the UK is a big federation. I would say there's going to be some national level events first. You would think, before they open the ITF circuit for the juniors and also for the futures, and then ATP Challenger, and then ATP Tour. That would be my trying to think with a sensible head that would be the earliest competition, and then from there, because the ITF have to be really careful here, because these tennis players get quite desperate. The ITF futures circuit's quite a dark world, and I would imagine a large percentage of players, if they see that tournaments are on, they'd almost see it as they have no choice but to go and play these tournaments. So the ITF need to be really clear. That's the junior level also.
That's every level.
And the junior level as well. So there's a real risk associated whereas if we're talking about ATP WTA, there is going to be different way. I mean, they're talking about the Premier League in England right now, and this is a serious discussion that's been had, that they will finish the Premier League season and the teams will be in their own lockdowns, and then what they'll do is they'll have two arenas without anybody watching, that they'll be playing 3 matches a week, and they'll just bring the players in, play the matches, leave, go back to their lockdowns. So they're talking about doing these sort of things. Now, I'm not a medical expert. I would imagine even when I read that, I thought, well, that seems like that could be dangerous. But that's at the higher level, you have the money to be able to at least take some of these steps. And you have, there's the resource there, and there's obviously the TV demand, and there's all of this demand there, that they would be able to take some real clear measures. How much they can stop the virus. Obviously, we know that that's not possible. But the ITF circuit juniors and the ITF futures, there's not going to be any measures in place. It's just a free-for-all. And all of a sudden, you've got hundreds of people flying around the world. And if we're in a place where this is not safe, then they have to be careful, I think.
So I'm going to address this one to Mike, but Dan, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah.
Do you think it would behoove the governing bodies to talk to the academies and the people who are responsible for bringing these players back in, and asking, well, what will it take for players to be able to get back into it physically and emotionally? Are you being consulted, and do you think facilities and programs like yours should be consulted?
I think at least governing bodies talking to their staff, their S&C coaches, that type of thing is a massive step. Again, on the football talk, the players are already talking about if football does restart, they would need a 4 to 6 week pre-season, and I think that's similar to what we would expect and ask for. Is that I know the ITF is a business, but in terms of their their duty for player welfare and player care. As soon as tennis courts open, they can't then straight away put tournaments on. There needs to be, like tennis courts are now open, like in 6 weeks' time or in 8 weeks' time. This is when international tournaments are going to start up, or national tournaments are going to start up. We need, I think, as I say, for player health and player welfare, we need them to be almost told that this is going to be put in place, because, like Dan said, on the transition tour, it can be quite desperate in terms of, if there's a tournament, I've got to play. They don't play because they feel like they will do well. They play because they feel like it's the only option. They need to get out there. So there's a massive duty for the governing bodies to do that.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that the federations have really great people in place, the national coaches, the strength and conditioning coaches, but that's a small number of elite players that they touch. If we're talking about opening up a tournament structure from top to bottom, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of players. We probably, between Austin Tennis Academy and SotoTennis Academy, probably have more players than a national strength and conditioning coach would see on a given year, right? So we see a lot more, and we see a lot more concerns. Do you feel like it would behoove them to consult at the program level, I don't want to say the grassroots level, because a lot of people equate that to the little beginners doing quick start, but those that are working with large groups of players on the ground as they develop these things, rather than pontificating from the top and then the players saying, well, I didn't know about that, or with the French Open getting moved to right after the US Open, there was pushback even from the federations, right? Because people weren't consulted. What do you think, that academies and players will feel left out?
It would be great. It would be great to think that that's how things would work, but it's not going to happen. It's unfortunately, not to, is the reality. I mean, I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago with you, Duey. Our players, it doesn't matter if they're Soto tennis players or not, but our players were in the middle of matches, thousands of miles from home, and they were told halfway through the match, "You're done. Yeah. We're done, guys. You're done." There's that example. You see a lot of these ATP WTA players coming out and they're tweeting about it and being quite vocal about it. Nothing's going through them. So I think, but then to give the other side of the argument, if we're sitting here as the ITF, we don't know. There's also a greater power than us. That we're almost waiting for these messages to be sent to us, and I think it's such a different experience for so many people. It's hard to, because if you make decisions and you cancel things too early, and then all of a sudden for some reason the world clears, then you look stupid. If you cancel too late, so you've almost got to give it the chance. But I'm going to make a statement now, which you can come back and you can all jump on me. I don't think that the ITF, ATP and WTA will play any more tournaments in 2020.
We're going to leave it right there. There it is. And, if I could take this off the stand and drop the mic, there it is. There's the drop the mic moment. Came right there. Dan Kiernan said, no more tournaments in 2020. Get ready for 2021. I know that you've had to cancel your 10th anniversary celebration, right? So you're about to celebrate the 10th anniversary.
What we're doing, Dewey, is we're making space now that there's going to be no tournaments till 2021. We have Soto Tennis open for all players to come and practice for the next 6-7 months and get into amazing shape, ready to start 2021.
And if you got to train in the heat and we're ready for it by summer, come on to Texas. I think that there's a little growing romance between Texas and Soto Grande.
We'll share the world.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you guys. This was a long one, and we probably could have kept going for twice this long. But I want to let you get back to the great programming that you guys are providing for the players there. This has been
Good to connect again, Duey. Thanks for having us.
Cheers, Duey. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mike. So here we are, Tennis 2020, real talk, real life, real people. Got a lot today, and I just want to say thank you for, thank you all for helping us feel connected in this time when it's real easy to feel isolated. Stay safe, stay well. Make sure you wash your hands and turn off the water while you're washing it to save it. I said this a week ago, and I've gotten chastised a couple times at home because I leave the water running, and I generally do that too much. So don't do what I do what I say. At least that's what I do with my kids. I say, do what I say, not what I do. Until next time, this has been Tennis 2020. I'm Duey Evans. Have a blessed day.